Hello lads and welcome to yet another video. Now as Series 11 comes closer and closer, we're literally less than a month away from it now. It's only in a couple of weeks, I'm bursting with excitement. More news is coming out about it, specifically from Chris Chibbers, and while he's not specifically saying what's going to be in the series, he's definitely giving a good taster of what's not going to be in the series, including one or two major characters, as it's been confirmed. Now, he's listed quite a few characters won't be returning, so I thought it'd be nice if I just went through the list and discuss how it's absolutely fine that none of them are coming back, and I'm absolutely relieved that they're not making another appearance. So, let's go! The first character on our list of people who are getting the cut from Who is Riversong.
Oh, Riverdong. You do like to live dangerously, don't you?
Spoilers.
Do people want Riversong to come back to Doctor Who? Apparently, yes. Should I think she should come back to Doctor Who? God, no, because she has had far too many series dedicated to her character and her character arc, and for whatever it is and whatever I couldn't have cared less throughout the whole of Series 6, some of Series 7, maybe even some of Series 5. I really couldn't care who Riversong was. I wasn't invested in the character, and I didn't really care this giant blockbuster story arc that her character had behind her. But aside from my personal opinions, that shouldn't affect whether she has any relevance or anything to add to the plot to make her come back. So I'm going to go through this sort of methodically and explain why River shouldn't just come back. I think the number one reason is that she's had far too many endings already. She's had 3, and that is a very Moffat thing for a character to say goodbye 3 times, and since he's penned almost all of Riversong's stories, if not all of Riversong's stories, he should have had a firm track of where her character is. And while she has this sort of time travel, they never meet in the right order sort of gimmick to her character, that shouldn't stop an ending from being an ending. Now, this could be argued that her first episode in Forest of the Dead was her ending, and we should have been building up to that moment chronologically from there on in. So when her last appearance, or what should have been her last appearance in Name of the Doctor, came about, when we saw River as a ghost and talking from the library data, that seemed to bring things nice and full circle, and we seemed to have a sort of nicely tied bow, even if it did take us a couple of attempts to get there. And so it felt like we came full circle, and her character naturally came to an end, and so it did until we reached the Capaldi Christmas special, The Husbands of Riversong. Personal opinion, I thought it was a nice little Christmas episode. I think it was fun, and I enjoyed it. For what it was, I enjoyed it, just to have a nice episode to sit down and just have on. But it also brought back River, which sort of in narrative terms is a bit controversial. There was nothing specially done to her character arc. There was nothing new she brought to the table, apart from this thing that she loved the Doctor no matter who he was, and they had this sort of... River had this inferiority complex compared to him, and I don't think that's anything spectacularly new. It was nice to see it portrayed in the way it did, but it was nothing new. The thing we saw, the thing that tied up the episode, and should tie up Riveter's story, is the Singing Towers of Darillium, because it was mentioned in her first episode that was the last. So if River does come back post-Darillium, even if in her timeline Darillium is like decades away, it shouldn't just happen, because from a narrative structure her story is finished and the boat is tied. We've come full circle plenty of times. We don't need her to come back, because you couldn't give her another ending if her story continued, which would top the ones that we'd had narratively, and I just think it'd be a good idea to leave her be. It was a purely Moffat character, and a Moffat character it should stay. Second character on the list is Missy. I have done a video before explaining why Missy is now one of my favourite incarnations of the Master since Series 10. That's in a separate episode, so this isn't a personal vendetta I have against the character. But in a similar situation to River, she has had her ending. Not only has she been killed, but she has been killed to death. Last time we saw her, there was no chance of regeneration, we were told. So to have her come back, even though yes, she is a time traveller and a Time Lord, she probably has a TARDIS somewhere, she just shouldn't come back, because that's the thing which I seriously hope Chibnall, and I have confidence that Chibnall will fix with the stories, is that we shouldn't bring characters back post-mortem. we shouldn't have characters who cheat death, even if it is a time travel way. Because, well, yes, we can time travel and go about timelines. We shouldn't let that sort of vandalise the narrative and character arcs that we have for the characters that are being written. And while I am confident that even though Missy ain't going to come back, the Master probably will at some point, I don't think the Master should come back in Series 11, in Series 12. I don't think the Master should come back in Chibnall's run at all, really, at least not for a solid while. I'd give it a few years, because the Master's been saturated a lot in the past few years. There's been a Master every series since Series 8, when she came back. And if she or they did come back, then it would sort of... Because there was a lot of stuff with Missy that would leave the Master's character hanging, so if they came back as a sort of primary antagonist, there'd be a lot to be explained, and she sort of needs her own separate character arc to go back into the villainous sort of mindset that we know the Master for and love him for. So I think if we just leave it and just let the Master simmer and not bring them back, I think that'd be decent. It's a shame because Missy really was getting somewhere with her character, but we saw her die. There's no turning back from that. Thank you for getting rid of Missy. Next on the list is the Weeping Angels. Now, I haven't hid my distaste for the way that the Angels have been treating, really. I think that they've strayed far from how they were introduced in Blink as psychopathic predators, and they've slowly been morphed into cunning, sort of strategy-driven people. It seems like they all have a society, if they could, when that has been sort of clearly established in Blink, that's not the way they work. They're sort of predatory, sort of savage beasts that just lunge and attack and kill so they can eat. They work solely on a survival instinct. So the way that they've been morphed into this sort of like tactical killers and sort of assassins, if you like, I'm not fully on board with that, and it's a sort of strange one, the Weeping Angels, to say they're not coming back, because they haven't really made that many appearances in comparison to River and Missy. They certainly haven't. They've appeared in a total of 3 stories as major antagonists. They've had cameos here and there. I think the cameos do ruin them for what it's worth, and I haven't even considered that when Chibnall said he's not bringing them back, because I forgot that pointless cameos are even a thing. But, thank you for taking that as a heavy implication that there are going to be no pointless monster cameos to ruin the sort of things that they put up, which is fine. Now, unlike sort of Missy and the Master, I don't think the Weeping Angel should come back at all in the entire future of Who. I think they should just be left. They're out there, they exist, we know that, we've had our adventures with them. I think they were good for one-note villains. I think if you try to expand on them too many times, then you come up with sort of silly evolutionary tricks that they come up with. Like, I've never got over the image of an angel becomes itself an angel. That's just... I don't see how they can do that when they are at their instincts stone. And then the episode after that, the next step up was the Statue of Liberty being a weeping angel. I feel like if we could just keep going and going and going, we're going to get sillier and sillier of how capable the weeping angels are. I have, in my big old back of books, Touched by an Angel, the 11th Doctor novel, and in that story they can appear on a TV and then travel from television set to television set to then become an angel with its image. That's more of an electrical based monster than a sort of savage, like, evil stone based one. I think that maybe the concepts would work for a new electrical creature, and I'd be up for seeing that, but not the angels. They should just be laid to rest in peace. The final characters that Chibnall said aren't going to be making an appearance in his series are the Paternoster Gang. Cool. Thank God. I could not care. The Sontarans have been absolutely vandalised, and I don't say that often when it comes to works of fiction, but the Sontarans have been absolutely vandalised by Strax. I despise his character. A proud, noble warrior race of the Sontarans have become this silly comic relief sort of thing. Even that's expanded on to regular Sontarans who aren't Strax, as seen in Time with the Doctor. They're just bumbling, sort of incompetent idiots when they were introduced into the classic series as noble strategists and men of war, proud soldiers. That's sort of been ruined. I think Strax did very little to help it. Madame Fastra and Jenny, fine. I found them very pretentious. It was just felt like when Moffat was writing their dialogue and their scripts and all that, it felt like he was being very smart. It was his way of being in Sherlock without writing Sherlock. While some of their episodes I do enjoy, I think the Crimson Horror is very underrated, and they're sort of decent in that. It's just, they don't need to come back. They never needed to come back more than twice, I feel. I think having them in Deep Breath was a massive mistake as an introduction to Capaldi, and I'm thankful that they are not going to be returning in Series 11. I want them just gone. No thanks, no more. They do nothing for the narrative, and that's fine that they're not coming back. I'm absolutely cushy with that. My stance for returning characters, I've talked about whether Captain Jack should return before, is that they should just be left for Series 11 and maybe Series 12. Chris Chibnall should develop and evolve new characters that we can fall in love with, and new characters with new personalities and new motivations and wants and goals and needs, just new characters that we can fall in love with and want them to return. Because Doctor Who should always be striding forward. They should never cling to the past for too long. If it's within the same showrunner bringing their own characters back, then I'm absolutely fine with that. It can work, as I say, with Sarah Jane. That was a massive success when she returned, but I think that it shouldn't be happening too much, because when characters get saturated, they get ruined and they get bleached, and I don't want to see that to any characters who people hold dear, and for them to get boring. So yeah, bring in new characters and make them come back, but just let go of the past and let's strive forward into a new haven of a utopian Who. There you go. What do you think? Who do you want to come back? Who don't you want to come back? Who you relieved's gone? Comment so I can ignore them, and I will see you next time to talk about something else. Bye.